Who is Mr. Cornelius? It was early evening when Holmes arrived back at Baker Street. Mrs. Hudson opened the door to him and Holmes followed her upstairs. Watson was waiting for him in the room. "Holmes," he cried, "at last! Where have you been? I was worried." "No need to worry, Watson," Holmes replied. "I've been to Torrington and also to Norwood." "You must tell me everything," said Watson, who was very excited. "Later," answered Holmes. "First, I must think some more." "But Holmes," Watson shouted angrily. "I must think, Watson," Holmes said again. He walked to the corner of the room and picked up his violin. Mrs. Hudson left the room, shaking her head. Watson angrily started to read a book, while Holmes began to play the violin. He played for more than an hour, his eyes closed. Watson knew that his friend was thinking deeply. He had to wait until Holmes was ready to tell him about his visits to Torrington and Norwood. At last, Holmes put his violin on the table and sat down. "Watson," he said, "it has been a strange day. I have spoken to Mr. MacFarlane's mother and Mr. Alderker's housekeeper and Mrs. Lexington, and still I don't know what really happened at Builder's house last night. Perhaps our Mr. MacFarlane isn't innocent after all, but an evil murderer." "Do you really think that, Holmes?" asked Watson. "No, Watson, I don't," Holmes answered. "I still think he's innocent, but, as Inspector Lestrade tells us, he had a good motive for killing Jonas Alderker, and he was at Builder's house yesterday evening." "What did you learn from his mother, Holmes?" said Watson. "I learned something very interesting," replied Holmes. "I learned that Alderker once asked her to marry him." "Really?" "Really," said Holmes. "And he was very unhappy when she said no to him. He was so angry that he sent her a photograph of herself, which was slashed with a knife across her face. Mrs. MacFarlane was a very beautiful young woman, Watson. It isn't difficult to understand why the builder was so hurt when she married another man, a man with no money. The photograph arrived on the day that she married John MacFarlane's father." "Oh," said Watson, "so Alderker was unlucky in love." "Yes," Holmes agreed, "but it is strange that he wanted to leave everything that he had to Mrs. MacFarlane's son. Very strange." "Was Mrs. MacFarlane surprised?" asked Watson. "I want nothing from Mr. Jonas Alderker, and my son wants nothing from him. I am happy that he is dead," she said. Holmes replied. "I understand how she feels, Watson. She's a good woman, I'm sure." "Did she tell you more about him?" "No, nothing more," said Holmes. "Next I travelled to Norwood, to Builder's house, to see for myself the place where the builder met his death. It's a big modern house with a large garden. There are a lot of trees." "So Alderker was a very rich man," Watson said. "He had a large house and a large garden," Holmes replied, "but he wasn't so rich. I saw his bank book." Here Holmes opened the cigarette box on the table and took out a cigarette. He gave his friend a short time to think about his words before he lit it. "I see," said Watson at last. "Do you?" asked Holmes. "I'm not sure I see yet, but I must go on with my story. As I said, Alderker's house was large and modern, and next to it was the famous timber yard. He took out his notebook and opened it on the table in front of him. "Here, Watson, I drew a plan of it." Watson got up and stood behind Holmes and looked at the plan. "Here is Builder's house," Holmes went on, "and this is the timber yard. On the left are the French windows, which open into the builder's bedroom. As you can see, it's possible to look into the bedroom from the road." "Is that important, Holmes?" asked Watson. "I don't know," Holmes replied. "Possibly. Inspector Lestrade wasn't at Norwood this afternoon, but I met his sergeant, a man called Judd. He, of course, was quite sure that our Mr. MacFarlane is a murderer. The police found some buttons in the ashes in the timber yard and say that these buttons were buttons from Alderker's trousers. And so the builder is dead, and so McFarlane is a murderer. This doesn't look good, Holmes, said Watson. No, Holmes agreed. Our young friend is in deep trouble here, I'm afraid. But we must not give up hope, Watson. I searched the garden after talking to Sergeant Judd, but I found nothing. Then I went into the house. First I searched the builder's bedroom. The bloodstains on the walls were fresh, and I saw Alderker's footprints on the floor, together with John McFarlane's. But there were no others. I looked at the papers from the safe, which were on the table, but I'm sure that some of the papers were not there. I couldn't find the deeds to the house anywhere. Where do you think they are, Holmes? Asked Watson. I don't know, but I'm sure that our young friend didn't take them. He had no reason to steal the deeds if Alderker wanted to leave his house and money to him. Well, Watson, next I spoke to the builder's housekeeper, Mrs. Lexington, a small, quiet woman. She never looked at me once when she was talking to me. I'm sure that she knows much more than she wanted to tell me. She agreed that she answered the front door to John McFarlane at 9:30 yesterday evening. She went to bed at 10:30. Her bedroom is at the other end of the house, and fell asleep. The smell from the fire woke her up. She got up and searched everywhere for Alderker, but she couldn't find him. Of course, she thinks that this is because he was dead, murdered. What did she say about the builder? Asked Watson. A good man, she told me. He had enemies, of course, as everyone has enemies, but his life at Norwood was quite one. Nobody wanted him dead, only his murderer, our friend McFarlane. He has evil eyes, she tells me, Watson, Holmes said. Evil eyes, Watson said. Was the woman mad? Not mad, Watson, said Holmes, but also not very helpful. Mrs. Lexington told me very little. As I said, I am sure that she knows more. Did you find nothing at Norwood that could help McFarlane? Asked Watson. Holmes looked thoughtful. Possibly, he said at last. You remember I said that I saw Alderker's bank book and that it showed that he was not as rich as everybody thought? Watson nodded. Well, Holmes went on, when I looked at his checkbook, I found that he wrote a lot of checks to someone called Mr. Cornelius. These were checks for a lot of money. Who is this Mr. Cornelius, Watson? And why did our builder pay him so much money? That is what I want to know. This could help prove to Lestrade that our friend is not a murderer, that he is innocent, cried Holmes excitedly. Perhaps, Watson, Holmes agreed, but for now we have nothing more while Lestrade has McFarlane's visit to Alderker, the button from the builder's trousers in the ashes in the timber yard, and Mrs. Lexington's story. I must say, Watson, I do not feel hopeful. He spent the night thinking about John McFarlane and Jonas Alderker. In the end, as the sun came up the next morning, he fell asleep in his chair.